I thought it might be worthwhile telling you how I got an interest in this issue. First of all, I was always rather fascinated by the Jews. All countries have racial sins to their slate. I grew up in a town that had Aboriginals. They belonged to a tribe called the Thunguddi, and they were dispossessed, demoralized, health bad, food bad, high alcoholism, a high level of sickness. See them pass our gates, little kids about my age. And I wondered why they weren't able to sit in the same part of the cinema as we sat, because in Australia there was a de facto administrative version of apartheid, and it only ended in the 60s. So that was our crime. But I was always fascinated I know that Europe thinks of Australians as the hillbillies of the Antipodes, but I was always fascinated by the fact that my cultural betters in metropolitan Europe had this thing about the Jews, that they were willing to destroy themselves by trying to destroy the Jews. And the extent of that and relentlessness of that fervor, which has not ended yet, fascinated me, because in Australia, although with an occasional Jewish joke, we didn't think of Jews as specially deserving of suspicion any more than, say, a Czech immigrant from who arrived after World War II. And I remember Leosha Korn telling me that she came home from work saying to her husband, "Edek, it's wonderful. The Australians hate the Polish Catholics just as much as they hate the Polish Catholics just as much as they hate us." Equality at last. So we had a lot of xenophobia in Australia. So I don't want my remarks to be construed as being holier than thou. When I met Leopold Pfefferberg in his store in Beverly Hills in 1980, he told me about Oscar, and he showed me the copy of the list he had, and he pointed to himself and his wife on it. I bought a briefcase in his shop, and he told me about Oscar. He found out I was a writer, and we kept in contact. I read everything he had in the shop. He made copies of it, letters from Oscar to him, statements from Oscar to the Joint Committee, statements by former prisoners, pictures of Oscar during the war. What a handsome fellow. And so from that cache of documents, I thought, this is a great story. For one thing, there's the problem that if you say 6 million were killed and 3 million other Poles, these figures can't be imagined. But what happened with Oscar, the individuals can be imagined. And Oscar was involved in every aspect of the Holocaust, the confiscation of property, the ghettoization, the use as slave labor, and the obliteration process. He had information and was involved in his own way in every aspect of that. So you could see through him the whole menu of the Holocaust on an imaginable scale. And I think that's the reason why it's such a great story. I slowly got sucked in to writing it. I said to Poldek, I'm not even a European. I'm a European from the ends of the earth. Après nous le penguin of Antarctica. And he said, that's all the better. You don't have an axe to grind, do it, do it. And he was like that with Spielberg. Stephen, make the film. Make the film. You can't win an Academy Award for Little Furry Animals. You can only win an Academy Award for a great story of humanity, man to man. An Oscar for Oscar, he used to yell. And he knew nothing about the film industry. He knew nothing about publishing, but he was right. And hence I was inveigled in, and I began to interview the survivors all over the world, from Melbourne to Krakow and down to Israel, survivors from Argentina. And that's how the book came about.